India is hoping to lure global manufacturing to its shores with a campaign urging firms to make in India. But are companies swayed by the idea? Well, Martin Sung finds out as our Investing in India series continues.
When China's biggest handset maker, Xiaomi, announced that it was going to assemble phones in India, many saw it as a smart move and a boost to India's dream to become a global manufacturing hub.
When you import goods from some other country, the lead time for you to order and then bring them to India is about 4 to 5 weeks. While you manufacture them in India, this lead time reduces from 4 to 5 weeks to about 2 to 3 weeks. And that helps you in being more capital efficient. Going forward, obviously our plans are to expand this manufacturing capacity and to bring more and more products into the India manufacturing fold.
Modi's big idea is to push the industry to the forefront. The objective is to kickstart India's sluggish manufacturing industry. Right now, it accounts for about a little over 10% of GDP, but India hopes that contribution will climb to a quarter in the short to medium term. India's sweet spot for manufacturing could be right in the middle. Small and medium-sized enterprises would still form the backbone of India's economy. Traditionally, manufacturing is the sector that contributes most strongly to economic growth in developing countries and creates jobs. But this manufacturer said companies will stay away from investing if there are overly restrictive tax, labor, and land regulations to grapple with.
GST is one issue. If that GST is brought online, it will definitely save a lot of costs. Now it's very difficult to buy land, and it's also very expensive to buy land. So if you, as an industry, when I want a large piece of land to run a large facility, the inherent cost of the real estate is so heavy, it's just not viable.
India's ailing infrastructure is also a big stumbling block. The country still doesn't have enough modern roads, railways, and ports to transport goods efficiently for export.
If you think about the complexities of the logistics arbitrage, trying to manufacture things in India and then export them, I think the first step, a logical step, has got to be make for the local market, which is fast growing and it can increasingly absorb local production.
The good news is the Modi government appears to realize the scale of the task at hand and has moved to fix some regulatory and taxation issues that hurt investment sentiment. But the pace of reforms is key. Analysts say India has to work faster to roll out business-friendly measures or risk letting rhetoric get ahead of results. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his team are trying to turn manufacturing in the country into a main driver for the economy. Anand Mahindra, chairman of the Mahindra Group, tells us why the policy, in his mind, makes sense and how India should forge ahead.
When you want to build a consumer product and you want to build connect, you want to test markets, you want to mitigate risk, it makes sense to be very proximate to your ultimate market. The very notion of manufacturing is undergoing a change again. You know, everyone in the world is talking about 3D printing.
Yes.
I don't have to belabor that point. The digital technology and things like 3D printing were enabling much more local manufacturing. I want to make sure that India is ready for that future. My belief is that if we go back to Gandhian principles and say that every village, in fact, has to be a self-contained unit, if we want to prevent a mass migration and the problems that China has suffered, we should enable a number of small-scale units with new technology, with digital technology, and connected via cloud to their markets. That could be another template. I just want to make sure that India doesn't get left behind focusing on the old model of Make in India alone, while the rest of the world moves in at warp speed into this new era.
If everybody in his or her village was able to make whatever they wanted, or whatever, let's say, the market wanted on demand, where would that leave a group like Mahindra with the size and the scale and the different verticals, the different disciplines?
There is room for many models. Following one model and presuming this is the only path to the future is going to be wrong. I believe many models will coexist, and I don't want to be left out of either one of them. So we, in fact, are remodeling our group to mirror what society will look like. We will have large enterprises which involve large-scale manufacturing, and at the same time, we are incubating a number of startups which I hope will be in the vanguard of this small is big movement. I will not pretend with you, Martin, that India is an abundant source already of highly skilled, high-tech oriented labor. We have a way to go for that. And the government and the private sector have to invest a great amount in skilling them. Once you do, I believe for that kind of high-tech manufacture, Indian labor is ideally suited because there's a great engineering bent of mind. And even in the earlier days when China was fast outstripping us on repetitive high-volume manufacture, India always scored in manufacture that was bundled with some kind of intellectual or engineering content.
Do you see much more opportunity for the private sector, including business houses like yourself, of course, in defense?
If you look at the policy that has been announced, there is a very clear understanding on the part of Mr. Modi himself and his colleagues in government that India needs what they call a military-industrial complex. If you look at some of the most incredible inventions or technology innovation that has come out of America, it's come out of this big bad military-industrial complex. It's at the confluence of military requirements and technology that you get remarkable achievements. That's what I think Mr. Modi understands. And I'm always struck by a man who comes from such humble origins that he understands concepts like this, which frankly previous regimes didn't. So he is not saying this as a flag-waving patriot, simply saying, I want to get foreigners out, I want people to make in India. He's encouraging defense companies to invest here. He's saying in high technology areas, I don't mind if you invest 100% of the equity in India. But he wants the locus of manufacturing to be here, because he knows when you do that, you create an innovative ecosystem.
There are few people better to talk about the industrialization in India than Kumar Mangalam Birla. He's the head of the Aditya Birla Group, one of the big three business houses in India, along with the giants Tata and also Reliance. Now, we caught up with him recently to talk about India's manufacturing push and his company's late and surprising entry into the world of e-commerce. Take a look.
I think that the ripple effect of investment in manufacturing in terms of the number of jobs that get created is the maximum. And we have the credentials as a country of being successful in the manufacturing sector. We have educated people, we have a fairly inexpensive labor force. So I think that there is a huge opportunity for India to become a manufacturing hub, if not for the whole world, at least for this part of the world.
From your businesses, what can you tell us about what kind of shape the Indian economy is in?
I think, in short, the services business are doing very well. Manufacturing is seeing a problem more because of commodity prices being the way they are, not just in India, but obviously globally. So I think it's interesting times, challenging in some ways, but also many opportunities for growth in India.
Where?
We are the largest in cement in the country, and the question I often ask is cement really a old economy business or is it a new economy business? The kind of infrastructure that India will require if we are to actually grow at 8-9% per annum is going to be huge, and if that's the case, the demand for cement is obviously going to be huge as well. So can you really say that it is an old economy business? I don't think so. We are not in those sectors, but pharma, IT are doing very well. Our telecom business is doing very well, so is our financial services business. The commodity businesses, like I said, across each sector, we continue to outperform the sector and the closest competitor to us.
Commodity prices, is this it? Have we seen the lows?
So, you know, every commodity has a different story, but I think if I take the example of aluminum, which we are in, prices are so low that for several smelters across the world, their cost is higher than today's price, which means that at some point in time, if this persists, they will actually have to shut down. When that starts to happen, you know, at some stage, demand and supply start to come closer, and prices correct. So that is, I think, a fair assumption to make.
One of your latest initiatives which is getting actually a lot of attention into e-commerce or e-tailing, ABOF. It's all about fashion, apparently. Interesting idea, but a lot of people are saying that, A, you may be a little bit late to the game, and they're also surprised that you're doing it now. And you say what?
Well, there is no right time. I think that we've spent a fair amount of time studying the sector, studying the different verticals, and have zeroed in on garments or fashion. It is the fastest growing vertical in India. I think that the room is very large. There's space for more of us. At the end of the day, there will be a few who will survive. And I think it's about quality, it's about customer experience, it's about sharp pricing. We've launched a very good product. We're not in a hurry, we have deep pockets, and we are in it for the long run.
So India has been a runaway success for us. We entered the market in the middle of the summer of 2014, right? So just over a year ago. And then in less than a year, we sold 3 million smartphones from a standing start, right? From zero, from 2 people in a room. So that was a phenomenal first year for us. Then we actually just had our first quarter where we sold over 1 million devices in one single quarter. That was Q3 2015. So this year alone, we've had 45% quarter-over-quarter growth in the Indian market alone, which has been really, really phenomenal. So we're continuing to invest. We now have manufacturing in India. Most of our devices sold in India are now manufactured in India as well, which of course creates tremendous synergy for our business. We have a huge community in India. We just opened a very large office in Bangalore as well. So we're dead center in the Indian Silicon Valley. So going really, really well, but the prospects for growth are even better, we think.
Eunice also asked how the company was positioning itself internationally after successfully expanding within China.
Xiaomi has always had global ambitions from the beginning. We, of course, started here in China, which is a great platform market because it allows you to build scale across the board. But we've always wanted to become one of the world's biggest consumer electronics and internet brands, right? And that remains our goal, of course. 2 years ago, we started that expansion. It was roughly around the time when I joined the company, and we've expanded initially into Southeast Asia. We then entered India, which has been a phenomenal market for us, and most recently we also entered South America in Brazil to start with, and expanding into other markets soon. Right, so we've now learned to export our model, right, the model that has worked so well here in China to a bunch of other markets, and that expansion is well underway.
Okay, joining us live from Mumbai is Nilesh Shah, Managing Director at Kotak Mahindra Asset Management. Nilesh, thank you so much for joining us. In this package there, we heard a lot of reasons to be optimistic about investing in India. What about the reasons to be pessimistic about investing in that country? Weak capital investment, specifically on the private and public side, and we're seeing that factories are running 30% below capacity. Where do you stand?
We think today we are in a far better position, and all the problems which we can foresee in future have already happened in the past, and despite that India has delivered reasonably good growth rate. I just want to present one story to your viewers. We have a company called Maruti Suzuki India Limited. It sells car in India alone. The parent company of Maruti Suzuki, Suzuki Motors, which sells car worldwide. Maruti pays royalty to Suzuki. Suzuki doesn't give any benefit to Maruti. Maruti's today's market cap, selling in India and withstanding all the problems of infrastructure, corruption, bureaucracy, politics, is more than Suzuki, even though Suzuki owns half of Maruti and Maruti doesn't own anything of Suzuki. Working in one country like India, Maruti is able to outperform its parent Suzuki. We believe what Maruti has done to Suzuki, same thing many multinational companies, subsidiary companies in India will do to their parents. And that is the opportunity of India. Short term, lots of hurdles, but longer term, if you stick it out, you will make enough returns.
But wait a second, Nilesh, you said all the bad news has been priced in. Well, we haven't seen the worst of the news come yet. That is the first rate hike. What happens when the Fed finally moves?
Definitely, US Fed rate hike is an important factor. Fortunately, US Fed has communicated its intent for quite some time, and hence my feeling is that market is reasonably factored in that rate hike. We had seen that in quantitative easing, where the actual withdrawal of quantitative easing did not impact Indian market or emerging market, but the speculation of quantitative easing withdrawal in mid-2013 created more adverse impact. So to a great extent, Fed rate hike is priced in, unless until the message by the US Fed that they are looking to raise interest rates far more speedier and not in a gradual or calibrated manner, I don't think so market will be at risk.